أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. قال الله في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنما وليكم الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Illuminate your hearts and your minds with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. After the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Imam Ali alayhi salam went through nothing short of struggles and hardships throughout his lifetime. Now, as we have been going over in the past nights, in a khutbah or a sermon which has been revelated for the Imam Ali alayhi salam, which can also be found recorded inside of the Nahjul Balagha, the third sermon called the khutbah of Shiqshiqiyya, or also known as the khutbah of Maqammas, records and says and brings the different tragedies or hardships that happened after the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Imam Ali alayhi salam reached a point where he had no choice between two options: to wait or to lead an uprising. The Imam Ali alayhi salam chose to wait, for this was the best option, the best action to take. فَصَبَرْتُ وَفِي الْعَيْنِ قَضَى وَفِي الْحَلْقِ الشَّجَاء. The Imam Ali alayhi salam then waited in such a way that he similarized it to a bone in his throat and a thorn in his eye. No one stood up for Ghadir, no one stood up for Imam Ali alayhi salam. And the only reason was because either they were being threatened or either they were being bribed. The people of the time, though they knew the status of the Imam Ali alayhi salam, they still didn't choose to stand up for him. They still didn't choose to stand up and lead an uprising for the Imam Ali alayhi salam. The status of the Imam Ali alayhi salam, which the Prophet, our Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad says to the Imam Ali alayhi salam, أنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى. You have the same relationship and place to me as Harun had to Musa alayhi salam. The Imam Ali alayhi salam, with such a relationship and such a status, no one stood up for him, even though Ghadir passed, even though the Prophet raised his hand and said, Man kuntu mawla fahadha aliyun mawla. Whoever I am his master, Ali is his master. But no one stood up, no one led a rebellion, no one had any type of protests, because they were either being bribed or those who were actually willing to be on the side of Imam Ali alayhi salam were being threatened. He then similarizes his situation with the poem that was brought and recited by Aisha. In this poem, he starts talking about how there is such a difference between his life with the Prophet ﷺ and after it. In the poem of Aisha, Aisha starts bringing the situation or his life before he met Akhi Jabir, Hayyan, the brother of Jabir. Because before he was appointed by the brother of Jabir, Hayyan, to be his poet, he lived a very harsh life, a very cruel life. But after he was appointed by Jabir, by Hayyan, the brother of Jabir, he had a life of comfort and luxury. The Imam Ali alayhi salam uses the poem of Aisha here, but the opposite way. He starts using this to say what a difference there was between my life with the Prophet, our Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, and after the Prophet. For when he was living in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he had dignity, he had pride. But after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, he was looked as very disrespected. He was very disrespected. No one stood up for him, and no one led a rebellion or even protested against the evildoers. Praise to Allah, salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. He then starts describing the astonishment or shock he had for when Abu Bakr decided to choose Umar as the leader of the Muslims. For in the lifetime of Abu Bakr, When the people appointed him and elected him as the Khalifa, what did Abu Bakr say? He said, Aqiluni, Aqiluni, lastu bi. Let go of me, let go of me, for I am not the best of you. I am not worthy of such a leadership. وَعَلِيٌّ فِيكُمْ. And Ali is among you. Ali is among you. And Abu Bakr himself knew the status of the Imam Ali alayhi salam. But even though he knew this and everyone else knew this, he himself admitted to this, they still chose Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr, who knew that the Imam Ali alayhi salam had a higher and more worthy status for leadership over the Muslims, still chose Umar after his passing. And some scholars even say that no, it was Umar who forcefully took the khilafat away. He then says, فَيَا عَجَبَ بَيْنَهُ وَيَسْتَقِيلُ فِي حَيَاتِهِ إِذْ عَقَدَ لَهَا لِآخَرَ بَعْدَ وَفَاتِهِ. Oh, how there is such shock and astonishment, for when he was alive, he would tell us to let him go of this khilafat. And even though he did this after his passing, he appointed Umar as the leader after him. لَشَدَّ مَا تَشَطَّرَ ضَرَعَيْهَا. The Imam Ali alayhi salam, in this part, starts describing how Umar and Abu Bakr would never let go of Khilafat, how they would milk it just the same way as they would from a cow. They would never let go of it with such pressure and with such force that they would never let go of the Khilafat. فَسَيَّرَهَا فِي حَوْزَةٍ خَشْنَاءٍ. Abu Bakr, here he appointed Umar to be the leader after him. فَسَيَّرَهَا فِي حَوْزَةٍ خَشْنَاءٍ. He appointed it and passed it on to the property of a person who was full of anger and full of greed. فَسَيَّرَهَا فِي حَوْزَةٍ خَشْنَاءٍ يَغْلُظُ كَلَامُهَا وَيَخْشُنُ مَسُّهَا. This property, this person or the owner of the Khilafat after Abu Bakr had a very bad way of speech. He was very disrespectful. وَيَخْشُنُ مَسُّهَا. And in his encounterment and the people's impression on him were nothing but evil and wrong. He was very disrespectful to everyone. وَيَكْثُرُ الْعِثَارُ فِيهَا وَالْإِعْتِذَارُ مِنْهَا. And there was a lot of mistakes done by Umar. After the passing of Abu Bakr, when Umar was given the leadership over the Muslims, he was very disrespectful, and this was revelated in both Shia and Sunni traditions. Umar was very disrespectful, and he had a very bad tone and way of speaking, that whenever he spoke, it was nothing except for shouts. The only way he spoke was with shouting and with anger. Whenever he talked with other people, his encounters with the others was nothing but disrespectful and disobedient. وَيَكْثُرُ الْعِثَارُ فِيهَا وَالْإِعْتِذَارُ مِنْهَا. And when he became the Khalifa or the leader of the Muslims, there was nothing but mistakes from him. Umar was not qualified for being the leader of the Muslims. The only reason he took it was because he was hungry for power. وَيَكْثُرُ الْعِثَارُ فِيهَا. He didn't even have the capabilities or the qualifications for being the rightful leader over the Muslims. وَيَكْثُرُ الْعِثَارُ فِيهَا. And he made a lot of mistakes. Lots of mistakes were done from him. And the continuation, he says, وَالْإِعْتِذَارُ مِنْهَا. As well as there were a lot of mistakes from him, because there were a lot of mistakes from him and everyone knew, he also apologized a lot. Whenever he would make a mistake and he knew it himself and everyone would call him out for it, he would apologize. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Oh, sorry, I did this. And this is another reason why us Shi'as or us in the Tashayyu' believe in Ismat, that the leaders over the Muslims are ma'soom, they are infallible. For whenever the tiniest mistake is made, it is possible that the direction of Islam may take a 180-degree turn. The exact opposite might happen when you're trying to guide someone on the right path, but they go on the wrong path because you told them something wrong. And Umar would make so many mistakes that the Sunnis, because of his mistakes and Abu Bakr's mistakes, they started getting rid of the idea that there was Ismat, just so they can give the upper hand to Umar. وَيَكْثُرُ الْعِثَارُ فِيهَا وَالْإِعْتِذَارُ مِنْهَا. And there was a lot of mistakes from Umar, and as well as a lot of mistakes, there was a lot of apologies that would come from him. He would apologize for all the mistakes he had. He had a lot of mistakes, continuous mistakes. We see that the Imam Ali alayhi salam here in this khutbah, up until now, every single time he tries to refer to Khilafat or Umar or Abu Bakr, he would do it indirectly. لَقَدْ تَقَمَّصَهَا ابْنُ أَبِي قُحَافَةَ. He doesn't say Khilafat directly and bring the phrase Khilafat directly, but he uses it indirectly. تَقَمَّصَهَا. Ibn Abi Quhafa or Abu Bakr wore it. He uses the word it as though it was not befitting of him. Whenever he would refer to Abu Bakr or Umar, he would do it indirectly. And why was that? Why did the Imam Ali alayhi salam hide the true meaning of what he wanted to say? It was because of taqiyya. After the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, the Imam Ali alayhi salam was nothing short of struggles and hardships as we have gone through. He had to do taqiyya his whole entire life. Some of the Sunnis, some of the people from the Sunnat side, might say that, oh, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he would pray behind Abu Bakr or Umar. The reason Imam Ali alayhi salam would do this was all because of taqiyya. For if he did not show what they liked, then they might have disturbed him or his family. The Imam Ali alayhi salam was worried about his family. So of course, he would do taqiyya to show them that he's on their side when he wasn't actually. In his khutbah, in almost all the different places, he does nothing but do taqiyya, show the different tragedies that went on and point out and call out the people indirectly. So if someone were to take the blame, or someone were to blame him, oh Ali, you said this about Umar or Abu Bakr, they wouldn't be able to. For for the Imam Ali alayhi salam here would use taqiyya. He would indirectly talk about the people so they wouldn't be able to have true proof against them. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he lived in a way, he lived in a state that there was nothing but hardships and the people weren't even listening to him. The people did not follow him. And though they knew his status, they still didn't follow him. The people of the time, they knew what a status and what a relationship Imam Ali alayhi salam had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but still they didn't follow him. It was out of their own greed. After the passing of Abu Bakr, who was the Khalifa after the Muslims? Uthman. And how long did he reign? For about 12 to 13 years. And if we add it with the Khilafat of Umar and Abu Bakr, the Imam Ali alayhi salam had to wait through this time for about 24 or 25 years, patiently waiting in such a way that there was a bone in his throat and a thorn in his eye. While he waited here for 25 years, the people did not even come to him. It was all because of greed, it was all because of bribery or because of threats. The believers couldn't do anything, and the people who knew the Imam Ali alayhi salam had such a status didn't follow him, for they were bribed or they didn't want Imam Ali alayhi salam to follow. Because if Imam Ali alayhi salam were to follow or reign over the Muslims, the world would be nothing, the Khilafat would be nothing but just, but idalat. The Imam Ali alayhi salam, for the reason that he has ismat, he is ma'soom, he is infallible, and everything that he does is in perfection and in the right way. If he were to have the leadership over the Muslims, he would do nothing but justice and right. If someone were to have something stolen from them, if bribery were to be done, if interest were to be taken, he would call out the person on this. The people in the time, they were very greedy and they didn't want this. They wanted the power for themselves. They wanted the money for themselves. They wanted the wealth for themselves. So they wouldn't go to the Imam Ali alayhi salam, but follow the corrupt, the evil. Though they knew this, they still did this. And now in our time, when we see there are so many of the Shi'as that claim they are Shi'as, but there's so much that they don't know. The people of that time, they knew the status of the Imam Ali alayhi salam and they rejected them. But they knew and they had ilm. And in this time and day, we all are Shi'as and we say that we are Shi'as, but there's so much that we don't know. For every single Shi'a, for every single Muslim, there is the responsibility of having to know at least the basics of their religion. Well, some people might say, what's the difference between a normal Muslim and the sheikhs or the clergymen that are now around? The difference is that a clergyman, their whole entire life is just based on knowledge and studying the scriptures of the Ahlul Bayt. But for a normal Muslim, they have to know at least the basics of the religion. There are so many out there that don't even know how to do their prayers right now. They don't know how to get wudu. They don't know the different Islamic laws that there are. For so many, they don't know what the Imam Ali alayhi salam went through. This khutbah of Shiqshaqiyya. These all are things that should be learned. And the dua of iftitah, what do we say? We say, وَمَا قَصُرْنَا عَنْهُ فَبَلِّغْنَا. From what I know of knowledge and from what I don't know of knowledge, teach me. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us of what we do not know and what we need to know. The basics of our religion, the things that are necessary for us to learn. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may teach us what we need to learn. وَمَا قَصَرْنَا عَنْهُ فَبَلِّغْنَا. I thank you for giving me your time. وَصَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِهِ الطَّاهِرِينَ.